So George Bush is on a book tour, and
Yay!
he's being rehabilitated. Of course, you have to remember he's a war criminal who ordered a torture program and lied us into a war. They got millions of people killed. So he's literally, whatever pit of hell there is, he'd be at the bottom. He'd be down there with Stalin and all the Pol Pot and,
Yeah, and if you think he'd be in a different realm, you are misunderestimating him.
That's right. So here it is from the Insider. Kelly McLaughlin writes on April 20th, George W. Bush said he's troubled by the capacity of people to spread all kinds of untruth. It looks like he's having trouble keeping a straight face saying that, doesn't it? That's what that looks like. Oh, that wacky W with his untruthiness. Don't we all miss the kinder, gentler days of brush-clearing malapropisms? I know I do. Hey, Bush lied and millions died. Do you remember that saying? Because I remember that one, but I guess I know that was...
I had it on a T-shirt.
That was Ron. That's divisive. Do you think... so with the question I asked... Do you think George Bush would have lost his Twitter account over the WMD's lie or for orchestrating a torture program? Never a price to pay when you lie for the war and for the establishment. So it's good to see that people still appreciate a tweet like that. That's nice. In fact, it's even better when there's never a price to pay when you lie for war and the establishment. In fact, it's better than that. You actually get paid when you lie for the establishment and when you lie for war. It's easy money. You never have to ask for a promotion. Just lie with a straight face, and you'll move up the ladder effortlessly. Look at Brian Williams. Look at Rachel Maddow.
Actually, in fairness to Brian Williams, he dodged a lot of fire while climbing that ladder.
He did.
There was...
In fairness.
You know, what's really troubling is how much misinformation there is and the capacity of people to spread all kinds of untruth.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I don't know what we're going to do about that.
Your administration faxed talking points to cable news networks. Your administration did that. Does anyone... Were we the only people around then? Was it like... I didn't know you back then, but were we the only people who remember that? There is that movie where there's I forget what it's called, and I feel bad because it's a really fun, neat movie, but it's this guy, there's this weird power outage, and then this guy wakes up in a world where the Beatles never happened.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
That's a great movie. It's a really fun movie. Sometimes I feel like I woke up in a world, and I've been here for a long time, where like me and 5 other people remember the Bush administration, and nobody else does. It's like, remember all the terrible? No, he's a nice guy now.
And he's not from Texas, but he speaks with a Texas accent, and he's the only one in his family who does.
Mm-hmm.
And he invented that as a grown-up to make himself seem more folksy. And whenever he's lying, he ramps it up extra hard. Watch how hard his accent is here, and that's how you know he's lying. Watch.
You know, what's really troubling is how much misinformation there is and the capacity of people to spread all kinds of untruth.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we're going to do about that. I know what I'm doing about it.
I know what we're going to do about that. I know what we're going to do about that. I know what I'm going to do about that. How about when he said the word untruth, he smiled like he just invented it. Untruth. What do you think about that word? Did you see what it was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Watch how he's so proud he says untruth. I got to play it again.
You know, what's really troubling is how much misinformation there is and the capacity of people to...
Honest to God, that's like Chris Christie going, you know what the problem is? The people who spend so much time at the buffets. I mean, it's troubling, isn't it? I know what we're going to do about that. I know what I'm going to do about that. I'm going to elbow them out. This guy's the biggest liar in the history of liars.
You know, what's really troubling is how much misinformation there is and the capacity of people to spread all kinds of untruth.
Yeah.
And
I think he's
don't know what we're going to do about
he
that.
managed to finish the sentence.
Yeah.
I don't think he thought he was going to make it through that one, but he did.
He did. Untruth.
What I'm doing about it. I don't do Twitter, Facebook, or any of that stuff.
You're off of it all. No,
Yeah.
you've never done it.
He's not on Twitter, Facebook, or any of that. That's her hard-hitting question, by the way.
You've never done it.
That's her big hard-hitting question. Oh, you're not on Facebook. He just lied about lying. And you're like, but you're not on Facebook? You're not on Twitter. That's not that bad stuff. I'm not surprised George Bush isn't on Twitter and Facebook. There's reading involved with those things. He's never said he never said he wasn't on Instagram. No. That's the establishment media, ladies and gentlemen. How many serious adult journalists Here we go. George Bush. No, really, George. W. Bush lied about the WMDs. There it is. The day I realized I would never find weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. There it is. It's in the New York Times Magazine. Here we go.
You saw the assault on the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah, it made me sick. It's like it couldn't.
So we're going to turn this up and play it again. Ready?
You saw the assault on the Capitol on January 6th.
Yeah, it made me sick. It's like it couldn't believe it. Neither could you. Most Americans are sitting there going, what the hell's going on, you know? And it was a terrible moment in our history, and it's going to be a part of our history. I've been watching all the prosecutions and stuff, and, you know, the people deserve to be busted. And it looks like the government's going after them. And
people deserve to be busted. Just like when we invaded Iraq for no reason. You mean like that? That people need to be busted? Wow.
I'm not going to cast blame. I know what your next question is. I'm going to let it go. But it was disgusting.
Why not cast blame?
You know, you're trying to guess the motivations of, you know, riled up people. History's going to assess the blame when time goes on. There'll be more data coming out.
More data. Here we are 20 years after he lied us into a war. What is history doing to this guy? They're giving him softball interviews. They're rehabilitating a legit war criminal, a guy legit. They used to do articles about I remember they would do it. We documented 918 falsifiable lies by the Bush administration. 900.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And now because of Donald Trump, somehow George Bush is Santa Claus.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I mean, it's like the term that Gore Vidal is famous for, the United States of amnesia. And, you know, I think it's the funny part, too, is when people justify this stuff because of their just, you know, they were just so upset by Donald Trump that they're just like, oh, well, George W. Bush is fine because at least he talked nice and Donald Trump didn't talk nice. Well, what are you going to say when they rehabilitate Donald Trump? Because that's going to happen, too. And what's going to happen is you're just going to forget this conversation ever happened. Because they're for sure. I mean, that's just going to happen. Like, Donald Trump was a media creation out the gate. He's a media mogul. That's what he was. And that's what he was throughout his presidency. They loved him. He was good for ratings. He's going to be rehabilitated. It's only a matter of time. My guess is 2022. So what are you going to say then?
As soon as somebody wants a rating, they're going to have Donald Trump. I bet you Saturday Night Live brings him back on. They brought him on before the election. Remember when Saturday Night Live brought on Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, my guess is 2022, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was even before that.
Here we go. Some more of this.
One thing is for certain. It's just a sorry chapter. Sorry moment. Really sorry. Yeah, this sends a signal to the world that, you know, like we're.
Sorry was
different.
his word that week.
And this book says we are different.
And he plugs his book. He plugs his book. We are a caricature of a society, folks.
Wow.
Yeah, that was really lame. Anyway, my book.
Oh, my God. And just remember, George Bush is going to, but look at this. So just so you know, here's the number of documented civilian deaths in the Iraq War from 2003 to March. Look, do you see all these millions of people dead?
Yeah.
You see all these people? 30,000, 26,000, 16,000, 10,000, 9,000. Look at all the 20,000 again. It bumps up 20,000. These are how many people a year they're killing that they'll admit to. Yes, that they will admit to. And just so you know that George Bush will go to his grave being invited to the finest parties. Meanwhile, Ralph Nader is still going to die a pariah. So when they say that they hated Ralph Nader for giving us George Bush, that was a lie. What they hated Ralph Nader for was the fact that he put a dent in the Democratic Party and the duopoly's control of power. That's what they hated him for. They fucked up the Democrats' chance to win. It wasn't that they gave us George Bush, because they love George Bush. They love him.
And somehow all the Democrats who voted for George Bush still aren't to blame.
300,000 Democrats voted for George Bush in Florida.
Yeah, so somehow they're not the problem. But the people who voted for Nader, many of whom would not have voted otherwise.
At all. Would not have voted at all. Somehow they're, yeah, I know. Well, here we go. Here's bringing George W. Bush to justice. It's the international obligations of states to which former U.S. President George W. Bush may travel. That's from Amnesty International. Is that why George Bush doesn't travel? Acts of torture were committed against detainees held in secret detention program operated by the CIA. The CIA established its secret detention program under the authorization of George Bush. Former President George Bush himself stated that he authorized the use of waterboarding against identified individuals. Torture and other ill treatment, as well as enforced disappearance by U.S. forces, also occurred with the CIA's interrogation and detention program, including against individuals detained in military custody at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and in Iraq and Afghanistan. George W. Bush was commander-in-chief of the U.S. Armed Forces when they committed crimes under international law. The Bush administration initially chose to adopt the position that the president was essentially unconfined by the international or statutory law in determining the USA's response to the attacks on September 11th. George W. Bush specifically decided the protections of the Geneva Conventions of 1949, including their common Article 3, would not be applied to the Taliban or the Al-Qaeda detainees.
Oh, gee, shucks, was that me? I'm sorry. Buy my book.
Wow. As commander-in-chief, George W. Bush failed to take responsibility and necessary measures to prevent and suppress the commission of crimes against detainees under international law. The U.S. has failed to conduct criminal investigations capable of reaching George W. Bush, and all indications are that it will not do so. The obligations of states to arrest and investigate and prosecute are extradited. Okay. You want to hear some of his comedy?
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere. Nope, no weapons over there. Maybe under here.
Wow. That's...
Isn't it amazing that he's killing doing that stuff?
He's killing. And
killing.
Guess who's in the audience, Ron?
Well, all the correspondents.
Journalists.
Right? Yeah. It's the correspondents. Well, that's what I was gonna like. He's like having a great set doing that. Meanwhile, when Stephen Colbert, back in the day, the Stephen Colbert from the past, did that thing in 2006, it was silence.
Silence. So actual comedy gets silence, but when you make fun of lying a country into an illegal war, giggles aplenty from the American corporate news media.
Yeah. When you joke about doing it, that's fine. When you joke about calling the person out who did it, that's not funny.
Wow. Gotta love those pro-manufacturing war consent on war jokes. Those are great. Boy, we'd hate to send a message to the world that we're different, huh? Anyway, there you go. That's George W. F. and Bush telling pro-war jokes, pro-lying us into illegal war jokes to the American corporate news media, and they're laughing their ass off. And now you know why this show exists. Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.